Great. Hi, everybody. Many thanks for joining us at Impact for the new way for overseas talent to find their ideal role in the UK. So I'm sort of hosting. Ian Squires, one of the co-founders of Impact, and delighted that I've got Jonathan Beach, who's the founder of Impact, and has had many years of the joys of managing and helping people navigate through the world of immigration. So just first off, what we want to do really is to cover a few key objectives for you. The first we'll move on to shortly, which is explaining the new rules and how they affect you, how Impact can then help you develop your career. And then we'll also explain a couple of new tools that can help you get answers in real time when the rules change after April the 4th. So we've been working on this project for 2 years, and after the Home Office hadn't changed anything for 14 years, that's given us a lot of extra work to do and a few extra grey hairs. But thanks to the great infrastructure we built, we'll have all those changes ready for April the 4th for you to be able to use, and we'll show you how to do that shortly. So yeah, first off, really, also any questions, please fire them into the question box. I think the vast majority of things we'll be able to answer for you. Anything specific to you as an individual that comes up, please fire it in, and we've made time at the end to be able to do that for you. So yeah, just look for that, and we'll look for that in the comments box. So just first off, Jonathan, what is your, what is the your background in immigration and experience?
Thanks, Ian. Yes, 30th year in immigration. So started off working at the Home Office back in the early 90s, training immigration officers, and then managing the public inquiry at the Home Office in Croydon, where we were seeing over 1,000 people a day walking in and needing their applications dealt with. From there, went to work in London for EY, and then held a leadership position with KPMG for 5 years, and then set up Migrate UK, my own immigration legal practice, regulated practice, exactly 20 years ago. And since then, been dealing with both personal and business immigration moves to the UK, more nowadays concentrating on the business and economic immigration. So working with all sizes of organizations, from startups to larger corporations, looking at their strategy, moving employees into the UK for projects or longer term moves, and dealing with all industries as well. And what we found is that a lot of businesses now need a lot of training. They need to have work done on the compliance and management of the way they work and they hire. And to date with Migrate UK, we've dealt with over 7,500 successful cases. And that has now led to the discovery and setup of Impact.
Great, yeah. And just finally on that, I mean, obviously we'll come on to Impact shortly, but what sort of what enabled you to see the need for Impact?
Well, what's happened is that we had Brexit, and then we had the end of free movement rights for EU nationals back in the beginning of 2021. And we were looking at strategies of building Migrate UK. And around about October, November 2021, we had this flurry of activity, mainly through LinkedIn, of overseas skilled migrants coming through and asking us directly whether we can find them a job. And to start with, the team was saying, look, we can certainly help you once you have found an employer in the UK, and then we can deal with all the legal paperwork. But what we're not able to do is find you the job. We're not recruiters or employers. Now, we thought that would be the end of it, and we were keeping in touch with them to see that they were kind of like being successful with their moves. But over the course of about 2 or 3 months, the number of inquiries coming in increased, and the whole team was seeing probably in excess of about 50 to 60 of these inquiries a week. And what I found is that the majority of people looking for opportunities in the UK were actually really skilled. Probably about 90 to 95% would comfortably be able to qualify for sponsorship, which is one of the most popular routes of entry for work into the UK. And it got me thinking, should we really be turning these people away? I mean, they are probably very, very good opportunities for employers who are struggling to hire in
Yeah.
the face of Brexit. And of course, with the rule changes that accompanied that, there was a wider pool of people that can come into the UK. So we thought, okay, maybe there's an avenue where we could help these people come to the UK and match them to employers who have got genuine vacancies with skilled jobs.
Okay, that's great. Okay, that's good. So in terms of the new immigration rules, obviously, literally the clock is ticking, and there's two main categories. Just wondered if you could explain how it affects these two different groups of people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite complex to capture all this in slides. But back in December, the government revealed their plans for reducing net migration to the UK. And from a work perspective, there were kind of three main avenues. They were looking at raising the salary for skilled workers. They're also looking at changing the job codes that were available to workers. And they were looking at abolishing the shortage occupation list. So what we're going to do is just cover those in brief detail before we go more into the mechanics of impact. But really, yes, looking at the dates, there is a cut-off. There are two distinct groups here. So anyone in the UK who currently has a certificate of sponsorship as a skilled worker issued prior to the 4th of April will be in one group. And then you've got pretty much everyone else. So that could be people who are looking at switching immigration category, or people coming into the UK for the first time as skilled migrants. So those existing skilled workers, and again, I must stress on this, there's no need for anyone to worry about anything that needs to be done until an application needs to be made. But those who are currently on a skilled worker status, when they need to make a fresh application, can be paid one parameter, one set of payment rules, and then those who are coming into the category of fresh will need to be paid a different set. Now, what's happened is that the minimum earnings have pretty much remained the same for many, many years, and the government have caught up with the median level of pay, and of course now they're changing it from the 4th. So there's mad activity with employers trying to sponsor before the deadline, so they're not affected too much by this uplift in salary.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that. And then sort of moving on now, just try to summarise for you what that actually means in terms of the new skilled workers and existing skilled workers.
Yeah, so what this will mean is that from the 4th of April, if you've got someone who is being issued a fresh certificate of sponsorship, so they're switching immigration status or coming for the first time, they will need to meet three different parameters of earnings. This will be the highest of either 38,700, the going rate for the job, which are published in Appendix Skilled Occupations, and also £15.88 per hour. Now, this is a pretty big increase. It's probably about 30 to 40%. The 15.88 has come up from £10.75, and of course, the 38,700 has been raised up from 26,200. So these are kind of the two parameters that people think are going to be the most kind of noteworthy to look at, but it's the going rate which could be the most interesting, because the going rate for those coming to the UK for the first time or switching immigration status, including graduate visa holders and students, they will need to meet a going rate at the median level now, which could be between 30 and 50% higher than it currently is as of the rules at this time. But thankfully, there are discounts available to these rates. And we've just mentioned a few examples here. If you're a new entrant, so this could include those on a student visa or a graduate visa, or those under the age of 26 at the time of making a visa application, and those following a job where there's a professional qualification, they could earn a 30% discount on these levels, apart from the per hour rate.
Right.
Those who are following a PhD level job and they hold a PhD, whether that's a straight PhD or in a STEM subject, could also earn between 10 and 20% discount. And also those on the ISL, which is the immigration salary list, and that's a replacement for the shortage occupation list. So this will affect people who are issued a COS from a certificate of sponsorship from the 4th of April. Now, those who are already sponsored workers in the UK, so skilled workers in the UK, when they next make an application from the 4th of April, they will be subject to different earnings criteria, and they are lower. So we've actually listed those here. So 29,1190 per hour and the going rate. Now the going rate, again, could be higher than the other two, but they are set quite a lot lower than it would be for new skilled workers.
Okay.
And again, there are tables showing this. We've got the same discounts available, including the new entrant rates. And again, these are for people who are coming in or switching immigration category from the 4th.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thanks for that, Jonathan. And I think we've got an example here, and I promise you the rest of the slides aren't quite as complicated, but I think this is detail that's important for people to be able to put comparisons in together. So yeah, over to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's this really is just a takeaway. We won't spend too much time on this slide, but it just gives you an idea of certain job codes that exist at the moment on the left-hand side. And with the columns that are shaded in green, it just gives an indication of what the minimum earnings need to be in different. So you're looking at standard route, those with a discount for being a shortage skill, and those having a further discount up to 30% of the rate of pay for being a new entrant. Now, that's how it currently is. From the 4th of April, we're looking very much at the orange side of the board here, and then you've got two distinct routes. So you've got the first two columns in the green, which are those who are currently skilled workers and looking to change employer or to extend their stay in the UK. We have the different going rates available for those jobs, plus of course the minimum threshold and the per hour rate. And then you match those to the last two columns and you can see the difference between those who are changing immigration category or coming into the UK for the first time. There is quite a stark difference in the minimum earnings available. So it shows you just how different the going rate can be from the threshold rate, because a lot of the chat in December onwards was about this 38,700, but in reality, it's more to do with the going rate that hasn't really been published until only about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Okay, a couple of things to cover off on the new immigration rules. The next one, the change to the immigration salary list.
Yeah, this is the replacement for the shortage occupation list. We were told that this would be abolished, and it has. We were told that the 20% discount to the salary would be abolished, and in a way it has, but it's kind of come back in a different kind of way. Now, the immigration salary list is not as attractive as the shortage occupation list, which in itself has been diluted over the years. Many of the roles that currently exist will cease to exist from the 4th. And that includes most of the IT and engineering roles, which we've listed here, which is quite a surprise. But the idea behind this is that the going rates were going to be considerably higher than the threshold anyway, which they are. But the shortage occupation, or sorry, the new immigration salary list will be reviewed again later this year, and we're hoping that it will be reviewed more regularly than it has done of late. Now, there are discounts available to the rate of pay, but this is only going to be to the threshold rate, the 38,700 or the 29,000 for those who are currently in the UK under sponsored worker. It won't be applicable to those to the going rate of the job, which is really does take away the effectiveness of this. Takeaway we need to have here is that those people who are currently sponsored, and they're currently sponsored on a shortage skilled job, and they continue with the same employer in the same job, they will still benefit from the current discounts. Okay, as long as they carry on with that, they will still get the discounts. They won't suddenly be taken off the list and have to be paid a huge amount afterwards. So they are somewhat protected.
Okay, that's good. And finally, just this is as much as for anyone looking from overseas or here already, just being aware of these job code changes.
Yeah, so for those who are kind of in touch with their employer, just need to check or their immigration lawyer, it's really worth just checking again that the job they are doing, the job specification they're doing, rather than the job title, needs to be checked against the new job codes. Now, each job in the UK that can qualify for skilled worker status, and there are around about 1,300 of those under about 400 plus codes. There's a 4-digit code attached, and a lot of the codes will be changing. What we're looking at is a change from a system from 2010 to a system from 2020. So when a certificate is assigned, it's very, very important that the actual code is correctly input, because it could well be different to the code you've had previously. Okay, so what could happen if you are given a wrong code is that you could end up having an application refused, which could mean losing a fee, which for a certificate is £239, plus any other charges attached to that, such as skills charges. And then in the worst case scenario, and we have seen this happen before, is that if a code is used and it's incorrect, the Home Office could see that as deception. You're trying to actually come onto a code that pays less, for example. And in the worst case scenario, it's rare, but it could happen that deception could lead to a 10-year ban to the UK. So it's just worth checking that the code matches your job specification.
And I think I'm right in saying that if someone used the wrong code, someone who's a mechanical engineer they think they're bringing in is actually being brought in as a probation officer,
It could well be the
quite a challenge when they turned up.
That's exactly right.
Their new job. So there's just something to be wary of. So and detail counts, doesn't it? In this instance, the Home Office demands high levels of accuracy. So yeah, okay. So just think. Okay, although there's some news there of change, I mean, those rates hadn't changed for 14 years, have they, Jonathan? So in terms of
it's just one massive lift in one go, and employers and individuals have just not been prepared for that. Really do need to be looking at any uplift that is associated with the median rate of pay in the UK being done on a yearly basis.
There's still lots of opportunities which we'll come on to, and also we'll show you some of the, what the strategy that we think, anybody in the overseas talent in the UK or looking for that ideal role, what they should be doing now. Okay, great. Just a couple of other things just to share with you. This is a slide that is deliberately busy. Yeah, I know that this basically just shows you that multiple roles can exist in all companies. So basically, when you're running a business, this is a typical structure: CEO, sales, business support, HR, marketing, finance, customer service. Just shows you, I'll give you an example from each. In sales, you could have a sales administrator role under skilled worker. Business support could be anything down, including a personal assistant, but through to a management consultant. HR could be a role you could recruit for from a human resource director through to a personnel officer. In marketing, it could be anything from a marketing director to a telephone researcher. And finance could be from a finance director to a financial risk analyst. And from customer service, a customer services manager through to an after sales manager. So this is one of the myths with immigration, that the reality is there's a very wide range of roles, and we know how much of a challenge it is to recruit at the moment. And I think most individuals looking from overseas and most employers, there's a very good range of roles and opportunities. As we explain later on, our tools will actually just check for you, whether your role qualifies or your ideal job, and the salaries and everything that goes with it. So that's our immigration discovery tools and how they work. So yeah, and just one example, I know a lot of the people looking to come to UK, we know that from the data, are in the information technology sector. So these are just some of the high-level codes that Jonathan was talking about, the 400 codes: specialist managers, program managers, business analysts, program and software developers, technology and telecommunications professionals, and IT user support technicians, and business and related professionals and telecoms engineers. And just in one of those categories alone, one of those category alone, the specialist managers, there's a customer service manager role, installation engineer, network officer, telecoms engineer, and telephone engineer. So it's a very wide range of roles that are available here, and they've been chosen for a reason. And the reason is that we've got some, we've got just under 1 million vacancies in the UK that the economy and government needs and business needs filled, because without that vital talent, business and economy can't grow. And this is really interesting. I've done a lot of work on this over the last couple of years in research, and I 100% see this. This is the EU Commissioner in November 2023 saying Europe is engaged in a global race for talent with the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. In the same way, we're in a global race for raw materials and energy. And in Europe alone, they've understood that they're going to need 7 million more people by 2023, just because of demography. That's changes in our population. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment. But we're seeing this at the moment because you always find certain roles in demand at the moment. And Britain has had a lot of success, or the UK, bringing in some excellent nurses from overseas. But we've now got Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the US all trying to snap some of them up. So it genuinely is, and that is the future. There is a global race for talent. And just to show this again, this is Amy Pope, the UN head, in October 2023. Again, just endorsing this point. We hear from the private sector globally, but especially in Europe and North America, that they're desperate for migration in order to meet their own labour markets requirements and in order to fuel innovation within their own companies. And the evidence was fairly overwhelming that migration benefits economies by filling jobs, powering innovation, or fueling renovation, or the revitalisation of ageing communities. And again, we'll come on to that with some examples. But certainly, for example, in Canada, they've got a specific target of 500,000 people that they are out to get this year. And that's in a country of about 26 million, but they know they need that. They've got all the resources and space in the world, beautiful country, and that's a clear part of their strategy. So, yeah, I think what I'm really saying to anybody listening, you're in demand. And, explain a little bit more about that in a moment. So, yeah, just want to hand over to Jonathan a moment. I'm just going to take you through some the opportunities in the UK and how successful we've been with bringing talent into the UK as a country. So yeah, Jonathan, you're at the heart of this. Growth in employers with a sponsor license. That's
right. This just backs up the data that's been seen that you just talked about from the UN, and it just shows there is a massive demand, the widening talent gap. If we carried this line on back to about 2012, it would have been horizontal, would have been a flat line. There's been a huge increase in the number of employers who are seeking overseas skilled employees. A lot of these could be currently in the UK as students and graduates. We've seen ourselves a large increase in employers who want to retain their talents and their skills, but also from overseas searches. They really cannot find enough to fill these 950,000 vacancies they have. And at the current rate, if we look at this goes until the end of December. It's highly likely when we get to the next stats for the end of March, I would anticipate that this will be near 100,000. The number of employers applying for a license each quarter is topping out over 12,000. We're finding this in all sectors.
Yeah, interesting. And again, I think that's sort of mirrored. So that demand by employers is for a sponsor license so they can recruit skilled workers is booming. And I think the next slide shows another story as well, doesn't it, Jonathan?
Yeah, it does. It backs us up again. Now, of course, we know there's been an increase, mostly in the health and care sector, with sponsored workers. coming into the UK, and this can be borne out by this graph here. However, when we used to be dealing with sponsor license applications, probably around about 2 to 3 years ago, a sponsor license for a new small employer in the UK would be sought for the purpose of just employing one person. They had one person that would make their operations tick, reduce the pressure on their current workforce, and it would be expected that they would just have that one person and keep that one person. But it's changed massively. In the last 12 months, those who are seeking a license are already looking at sponsoring batches or groups of people, 3 or 4 more people in one go that they've identified, rather than just a solitary one. And even though there have been these rule changes and these salary uplifts, we don't expect there to be a significant drop-off on the desire for talent. And we do already know that there are employers who are seeking our assistance with licenses after the 4th of April.
Yeah. And I think what's significant, having worked, and again, for the benefit of overseas talent, I mean, one of the challenges the UK always has had is we've generated a lot of talent, but it's just the time it takes. To produce people with the skills that a lot of overseas talent has. It's a stint at university, it's some practical experience. That's just hard to create. You're talking years rather than months for that. It's just not possible to learn that amount of the information needed to fulfill some of these key roles, particularly in some of the more technical things like IT and sciences. It's just there's a lot of work and effort goes in to get to that level, isn't it, Jonathan? Very complex businesses that we deal with that are looking for this talent. Okay, that's great. And this is the graph really, aging populations. Perhaps if I just do this one, Jonathan, it's just declining workforce. That's what we're seeing in the UK. That's definitely what we're seeing. Talent gaps of nearly 1 million. Yeah.
Just going to add a few stats here that I've recently found, which are quite alarming. And this is for the UK, but it also represents a lot of the other developed countries. Is that they're expecting that that those of 65 and above will increase by 1/3 in the next 40 years.
I'm not that far off it.
No, and you've got to mix that with the low fertility rates as well.
Yeah.
And apparently that the next generation is only going to be 3/4 of the size of the current generation. So when you put those together, it just shows you that the economy and the population is going to shrink. The economy is going to shrink with it, unless we can get the skills in.
Yeah, and I think that's it does impact on business productivity and it inhibits growth. And I think there's a couple of really interesting stories here where with Japan, because they've had this aging population issue for longer, with low birth rates, they're questioning if their society can function by about 2035, and roughly in the same time scale, because of the decline in the numbers of people working and the number of people that have retired in the United States, they're questioning whether their social security systems, are going to be able to function in the same way in the future, because there's only so much you can tax people to look after a growing, aging population. So that's one of the things that drives this talent, competition, and for those who want to grow a career globally, there's no question that, with the right talents, you're going to be in demand, which is, it's nice to be wanted in life. So it's good. So I think that's one of the solutions, is to hire workers from overseas. And then, I think this is a number, Jonathan, just to share, what your thoughts on this, so.
Well, I mean, if we look at the overall figure, what was it? About 260 million overall who are moving. But that includes those who are moving through conflicts and just having to move through no fault of their own. But 181 million economic migrants from the last count, who are moving around the world. We've mapped out all those hot spots as well. And very clearly, they are moving for the reasons that we're assisting them all with. So you've got the family reunion routes, those who are joining settled partners, or even as dependents of people who are students or workers. And then you've got workers and students themselves. And if the UK is any guideline to this, this figure will most likely grow considerably
Yeah.
over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jonathan. And then I think the thing that we want to sort of share with you is that the overseas talent recruitment marketplace, there's this growing demand, but actually when you look at the marketplace, which we've researched very closely from all angles, from a talent perspective, particularly if you're sitting abroad or even if you want to move within the country, can be quite complex. It's confusing. We've just had to distill a 292-page Home Office document, to change all our tools within Impact and come up with these summaries. So, Jonathan's done it for all that time, and it's still, still a good brain tease and challenge, isn't it, Jonathan? Because it's an ever-moving feast and lots of implications of different things. So it can be difficult. We know it can be expensive. So research showing that people can spend up to typically £3,000 when they're trying to find an agent in India to come over. And the record one I've heard recently is 21,000 paid by a fully qualified doctor to come over to the UK when we're absolutely, crying out for high quality GPs to come to the UK. It's a lot of money that people are spending. Stressful, people are getting exploited, because a lot of the people that are charging money in this market don't have the connections at the other end. How do we know that? Well, they ring us up and ask us, have you got any jobs for the people who are paying them the fees? Time consuming and a question of the unknown. So that can be, those are challenges we see. And the other thing is that when we looked at it, it's a very disconnected market. So the trouble with typical overseas recruitment is that when people from overseas, and even sometimes when they're applying from within the UK, 30% of people get rejected because there isn't a right to work mentioned, or I'm pre-qualified, on their CVs or information. 64% of people are rejected because the CV is unclear or requirements are unmet. So 96% of applications just don't go anywhere. And I know from talking to people in the recruitment software industry that a lot of the software industry just blocks anybody that's applying from overseas. It's automatic, so it never actually gets to someone's desk. Only 6% of those CVs get reviewed, and 2% interviewed. So it's really difficult to connect with the right information to someone with a license or the ability to employ someone. So it causes a lot of frustration. And I think that's the reason you get a lot of people connecting with you, Jonathan, isn't it? And some of the things they're saying, I'm fully qualified for jobs, but and they are, but they're not connecting to the right employer. So yes, that's something that we aim to resolve. And just finally on that, give you an example. I basically was recently with a client, and I asked them how many times they got approached, and they said they get 200 approaches a week through LinkedIn. This is to a major automotive business. So that person gets over 10,000 inquiries through their LinkedIn box. I mean, I think I might switch mine off at that level, because if you spent 15 minutes replying to everyone, that's your whole working year gone. So that just shows you a good example of disconnection. So so I think that is how it was until now. So basically what Jonathan and I will do now is just show you how we want to help talent in the future find its ideal role. So basically what we see is we've created a global marketplace for talent powered by immigration and legal technology. So at the heart of this is immigration discovery tools that give you the answers to the questions you want, both as talent and as employers and lawyers. So the idea being is to create a platform where you can match the talent with the job opportunities. So it's all about pre-qualifying, so that you're only looking at people that actually have a license or the ability to employ you. And yeah, I mean, this is the technology platform. So companies build a profile and check their role qualifies. They go through a series of questions that answer the key questions that need to be answered. So yeah, they can make sure that their roles are, whether it's eligible for skilled worker, whether it's on the immigration, it's on the shortage occupation under the ISL, what the pay scales are, what fees are involved with the role. So they get basically qualifying roles coming onto the platform. So there's tools for the for talent, but also for the employers. And on the other side, for global talent, basically what we do is that by answering a series of questions, nationality, age, type of job, education, you might have gone to one of the top 50 universities in the world, which would get you access straight away, language tests, good conduct, a whole range of things that we answer. So you get to qualifying roles and pre-qualified talent, and then happy days. We've got a gateway to pre-qualified global ready-to-work talent to fill gaps and fuel growth. That's the whole essence behind Impact, as we want to make this market work more efficiently for everybody and do it at a lower cost and take out the exploitation side of this. So that's the goal of Impact. And how does it actually work? Well, the good news is, when we launch the platform with the new immigration discovery tools, so it'll be fully compliant with 4th of April. Employers will be able to create a profile, use the discovery tools to look at their role, look at, they'll be able to look at opportunities. And if they haven't got a license to recruit, we'll connect them with a lawyer that can do it for them. For advisors, they'd be able to create a profile and look at opportunity. For talent, you'd be able to create a profile, use the tools and look at opportunities, and same for recruiters. So basically that's on the free platform, and you get the opportunity to use those immigration discovery tools. And then basically once you've had a look and you're serious and you want to actually apply or create a new role, then basically we make your profile live, and I'll show you get the option to create a subscriptions, and that enables you then to look, for example, for talent, it will enable you to create your live profile, search function and matching process, selection on the platform, the legals on the platform, and the move. But within the platform, we've got some very specific tools that enable you to create an immigration-proof CV. Because again, going back to what I said earlier, 94% of applications don't get looked at, and that's because the right information isn't there. We take that problem away for you. And basically, you can just see the steps that you can go through to get you to the UK and that job that you wish. And basically, our aim for this with Impact is to go global, so UK first and then rolling out. We're already planning the next steps for other countries. So I'm looking forward to seeing some sunshine soon and traveling. Okay, so that's how the platform works. Talent immigration discovery tools. What have we created for you? So we've created an options identifier. So that identifies all your potential immigration routes based on your nationality, age, education, location, and your skill set. So basically, although traditionally people have come over on a skilled worker route, there's lots of other options are out there. We've taken Jonathan's brain apart. We've got all the options out of there for you. and genuinely taken all that information and distilled it into the discovery tools, because you'll be surprised about the options there, anything from ancestry rights all the way through to specific programs that the UK has entered into with other nations like India. And there's also the, for young people, but there are other schemes that have been put in place. So there's a number of different routes, and this will tell you, what your options are. Then skilled worker eligibility test. One of the tools identifies if the vacancy you are seeking qualifies for skilled worker status. If you don't, if that's the route that's available for you. So that would enable you to put in your own role, say data architect, and discover the minimum salary requirements based on your profile. So it will give you a host of information that you need to know. And then basically a sponsored work cost calculator. That basically that enables you, if you are going to be sponsored as a skilled worker, we calculate the 7 cost categories for your sponsored work in the UK based on your profile. And this includes your costs, your family costs if the family members are coming with you, and the fees paid by your employer. So that information, by answering some, creating a profile and answering some simple questions, those the answers are for you within seconds. So fast and quick. Yeah. And the functions on Impact for you, gives you a chance to review job listings, look at pre-qualified employers, build an immigration CV and documentation, access to all the online tools I've just shown you, job search, shortlisting. We'll be sending you regular immigration news updates, interview setup and video link, and store to all your immigration documentation. And although we're not a coaching platform, we do put we've got some guides going on the website for you to have a look at, and also some videos built into the platform itself. So, what we try to do is to help you to give yourself the best chance of finding a role. So, for example, helping you prepare for an interview, key questions to consider, all those sorts of things, how to prepare even before you start applying by looking at your social profiles, all those sort of good tips that are needed that can maximize your chance of success at the interview stage. So yes, and the platform's only going to keep developing and getting better and better. We're determined to continually innovate and change. And ethics, I hand over to here for Jonathan, because although there's a sort of team of 3 of us here, Jonathan is a founder. The ethics and what you've seen over the years, I think that's an important element, particularly to you, Jonathan, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the overriding factor is that there has been, with all the work that we've been dealing with, that we hear reports and we're getting allegations of exploitation in the marketplace. We do have calls, unfortunately, from migrant workers who have been set up for roles that don't exist. For those where they are fed myths by employers, so they are told they cannot change their job, they cannot receive another salary increase. If they stop being employed and sponsored, they would have to leave the UK immediately. It really all leads down to modern day slavery. And of course, we touched on the subject earlier that the other problem is that a lot of people from overseas are working with middle agencies in the middle, who are purporting to have jobs for them, but sometimes they don't. And for any of the services they're providing, they're charging upfront fees that can range from anything from £3,500 to £21,000. We've seen the lower end of the scale. We've certainly seen many times, and we've had reports of this. And at the upper end of the scale, yes, upfront fees to get placed into a job where there's no guarantee. So what the platform is aiming to do is to have genuine vacancies from employers who either hold a sponsor license or who understand what their obligations are when they are employing someone from overseas and what they need to do. So the speed of getting a decision is very, very quick. And it's all done for very, very minimal fees. It's just a safe place to operate. With any of the employers or recruiters we're having on the platform, we're looking at vetting as well to make sure they understand our codes of practice. And with the recruiters, they are specialist recruiters rather than general recruiters, so they know their market very, very well. And everything is very, very clear. News is there. It really intends to be that one stop, the first point of contact for any jobs and opportunities in the UK. And everyone there, including legal advisors such as ourselves and other legal advisors on the platform, will be regulated within that country of origin. So for the UK, you could be looking at different regulations, the OISC or the Law Society. So then you know that with any of the employment or the advice you're getting is from a regulated and truthful source.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. Just a couple of last sort of things to cover off for you all now. So yeah, so the sort of the big benefits that we see from Impact is give you access to employers that are actually looking for to employ you. So it's not just the challenge of landing on a UK job board, and it'll have thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs, but you won't know which ones that you could apply for and who's got a license or not. Access to resources, so free access to view the platform, training videos, and legal advisors. It'll definitely save you time and money. No need for excessive intermediary fees. We certainly think we can, take the vast majority of those out. There are some valuable people in this industry who do a very good job in terms of coaching, but there are lots of other people who are just taking advantage of individuals. Develop your career, find the opportunity you want to find your ideal role, which is obviously the title of the webinar. But basically what we want to do is to give you a chance to take that next step forward. And, we've built it in a way that I think you'll find shortly, and we'll send you a link when we go live. Easy to manage, so you can manage and install all of your documents in one place and reduce the risk of errors, because one of the challenges is that when you're updating information for the Home Office or any nation's civil service, if you like, they expect consistency in answers, and if you get one date slightly wrong, it can throw you out of the whole system. And it will not be a deliberate error. It won't be something that you've done on purpose, but it will just be something that has just happened and occurred. And yeah, I think this is how to make that UK immigration route work for you. Just like to hand over to Jonathan, who sort of put his head together just to try to say what are his top tips to help you.
Yeah, there are quite a few of these to look at, and I think the main thing we want to look at here is that when you are looking at options in the UK, most of the time it would be sponsored, but by our calculations, there are probably about 6 million people outside the UK who could move to the UK and work without needing to be sponsored. The first step really is to actually look at the discovery tools and working out what the best options are for you. But if we're looking at a lot of the talent that's in really high demand in the UK will be new entrants. So those under the age of 26, if you're here as a student, for example, or a graduate visa holder, or under the age of 26, you will benefit as a skilled worker from having a 30% discount to the going rate and to the threshold rate on the salary. But it is only for up to 4 years. And the important thing to note here is that for those who are currently in the UK as graduate visa holders, the 4-year new entrant discount lasts 4 years from the date that you start as a graduate visa holder, and then for 4 years from that. So if you join an employer, you need to make sure that you choose the right one. Have that dialogue with the employer so you understand where you stand once your 4 years of new entrant rate comes to an end, because unless you qualify for another discount for a PhD role or on the new salary list, then there could be quite a marked increase in the salary after that time. So what you don't want to be doing is waiting until the last minute and then only finding out that your employer will not increase your salary to the desired amount to qualify for an extension. And this really, you can just keep these reviews going and don't leave anything until the last minute. Always give yourself, I would say, comfortably 6 months before any visa expires to get these things moving and working correctly. With Home Office fees, we know that last year these increased quite markedly. The main increase that will affect talent coming to the UK or remaining here will be the NHS surcharge, which went up by 65%, I think it was, to £1,035 per year. But with a lot of these fees, they're all top loaded, they're paid in advance. So again, negotiate with the employer. It's worth seeing what they can cover for you. We do know a lot, and including some of our clients will operate a loan scheme where they will loan some of these fees to you and they can be paid back. Some of the fees have to be paid by the employer and they need to be aware of that. But it can be of great help. Otherwise, you could be looking at having to have, in excess of £6,000 or £7,000 in your account before you move to the UK. So it's worth having those discussions. We've mentioned all of the immigration routes. There are plenty available, and the idea behind the platform is that we will be constantly updating this and make it even more powerful as time goes by. So all of the little niches can be looked at. And again, it could be at an advantage to change immigration status once you're already here. It's not always the best route, but we understand the routes that really are an advantage to you will be to get settlement in the UK. And again, it's just checking with the sites, checking the news. Anything to do with immigration, it can change very, very quickly. And just see the roles that you currently have, where you stand with any changes to future salary and inclusion on salary lists, the replacement for the shortage occupation list.
Great, thanks. And log your absence from the UK. I think.
Yeah, this is one that really is forgotten about. A lot of people coming here under an immigration category with the view to work will lead to settlement here after 5 continuous years. And one of the challenges is that it's not really known before you apply for settlement that you're asked by the government to provide a list of all your absences from the UK, because there is a continuous residence requirement. It's worth doing this from the outset, also because absences are logged for other types of application in the UK, as well as overseas immigration applications. So you must remain consistent with data that you provide to government departments. And one of the tools that we will be providing soon will be a log sheet where it can actually measure the absences from the UK over the time you've been here.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. And just a final thing for you today, for anyone from the talent side. We've spent a long time building this, and we're aiming to have some very low subscription fees. We want this to be have a high number of members. So for all of the benefits that we've shown you, it's just got a low monthly subscription fee of £15 for us at launch, and there will be a premium product coming you can upgrade to in the near future. But at the moment, we want to keep the cost really low. And also for a new talent for the UK customer offer, if you register where we show you a link, the first 2,000 people to register are free, and then it moves on to offer 2, which is a 50% discount on the base fee, 10% saving for months 4 to 12, and then there is a 66% reduction. That is correct, 66% reduction for the annual contract paid on commencement. So basically, what we want to do is to offer the people, because a number of people have approached us over time. We've spoken to a number of them, have been really helpful research. So the first 2,000 talent subscribers are actually going to be free. So and the whole idea of the platform is it manages the whole process of your move to indefinite leave to remain. So that's a significant benefit. So it will. You'll see in the comments from that have been put up there that if you just have to register your interest at www.impact.ai, and basically the first 2,000 people there will actually communicate to you, and you'll be able to register for free. So yeah, if you can register your interest today, that'll be fantastic, and the platform will be going live in April. So cool. Okay, thanks very much for that. So yes, just next steps. All you'd have to do is to create your profile, use immigration discovery tools and review job listings, choose your subscription package, and then identify potential roles, employers and salaries, and then start the job application process. So we might be seeing you soon in person in the UK, but obviously quite a lot of people here already. And then we'll send out to you a link for a QR code as well. So we've got all your details, so we'll make sure that gets out to you. But it's I think that really covers it off. So if there's any questions that anybody has, then we find we'll either get low numbers or no if we've explained it well. Anything that comes through, please feel free to type in. Yeah. Okay, cool. The only question that I've had come to me directly has come through Jonathan, is just if what changes do you see for the future in migration? How do you see that changing in the future? I know we're just seeing changes now, but you've been in the industry for nearly 30 years. What's your prediction for the future? That's one question I have.
It's when we could possibly be approaching and changing government, so it's very difficult to say. But one thing is for sure is that looking at the current data, what's happening with the widening gap in talent, and looking at the opportunities, the aging population, low fertility rates, the real benefits that migration has made to the UK ever since I've been working in it, this business. There is always going to be a need and an open market. It will probably be changing to be maybe looking at more niche areas of work immigration. Maybe there'd be a few more changes and opening and closing of different routes. I think the next kind of change we're looking at is what's going to happen to the graduate routes. There is currently a consultation with the Migration Advisory Committee. So we could be expecting a change to that immigration category coming towards the end of summer, maybe beginning of autumn. But overall, there is just going to be a desperate need for skilled talent in the UK. So one way or another, it's needing to be open to those who are going to want to make a difference. And UK businesses will stress that fact as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Final thing for me on that, as a question, as I say, I was asked. I just think what will happen is the talent war will just switch from country to country at time. So all of a sudden you get a country that says, "Oh, we better slow down for a while," and then one of the countries that slow down for a while has hit the buffers and suddenly speeds up again. And you'll get the countries that are constant, like Canada, that have hugely benefited from immigration, because without it, their economy couldn't grow. So it'd be really interesting in how the flow of talent changes. But the good news for you is, for overseas talent, you will be in demand. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining us. Anything else, feel free to fire any questions through LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay, then. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks very much, Jonathan. Bye.
Bye.